not expecting the result means not get carried away by the possible consequences, because the consequence which is not yet arrived should not disturb us, because the cause and effect is a part of the world. If it disturbs, the disturbing us only means we are taking the cause and effect relationship upon ourselves. We are facilitating the effect to be produced from the cause. We are only instrumental. We are only using the cause and effect relationship in the world. We are not dictating the cause and effect relation in the world, isn't it? We as human beings do not control, do not dictate the cause and effect relationship in the world. We only understand it, use it, that's all. We only facilitate. So this is an idea of Karma Yoga. So that idea of Karma Yoga shows your relationship with the world. How I take myself as an individual. I don't make myself a problem. I don't make myself a problem in relationship with worldly events. Okay, we have discussed Karma Yoga many times, and in the last few shlokas too. Again it will come until the end of the 18th chapter. It keeps occurring again and again. Now, next shloka. This Karma Yoga is necessary because it started, this present chapter started with this necessity of Karma Yoga as a preparation for your real sannyasa. Real sannyasa means really giving up karma. Giving up karma means transcending karma. In order to transcend karma, Karma Yoga prepares us, which is necessary, a preparatory steps to help you to transcend the very karma. Now the transcending karma, what does transcending karma mean? Transcending karma means what? That is discussed here in this next shloka, 13th shloka. An enlightened person, one who understands the truth, the very understanding the nature of Atma, the very understanding the truth about oneself is transcending it, because Atma by its very nature is free from individuality. As long as you are an individual, you are related to karma. Related to karma means you are a doer, agent of action. Doer means agent of action and experiencer of its result. You are an individual. You are an individual. You become a part of cause and effect relationship. If you are related to the cause, the same person will automatically will get connected to result also. If you get related to cause, the same person will get related to effect also. So, to transcend, you have to give up your relationship with cause and effect. How do you transcend the cause and effect relationship? That is possible only when you transcend your individuality. Oh, transcending individuality, this seems to be a strange. Yeah, it is strange, but it is possible. Because the individuality itself is a wrong standpoint about myself. Taking myself to be an individual is only a way of looking, is only a perception, is a perception about myself, is only an understanding about myself, a conditional understanding about myself, not an unconditional real self. This is what Shastra has to say. Shastra has to say a new fact which we are not aware of. Until Shastra points out, we would not know that this is a fact. So what Shastra tries to point out is Today, a lot of disturbance. I don't know why it is coming again and again. So, what? My individuality is only a way of looking, a limited angle of, a limited standpoint of looking at myself through the condition, through a given condition. What is that condition? Body is one condition, sense organs is another condition, mind is a condition, mind or intellect both together. So body, sense organs and mind, these are the three factors constitute the condition through which I look at myself. But in my real nature, I am much more beyond that. What I appear to myself through the body is an individuality. What I appear to myself, not only to others, even to myself, what I appear to myself through the sense organs, through mind. Through mind means when I am functioning through mind, when I am functioning through sense organs, I am identified with sense organs, then I get an identity through my body, just like you, through your language you get an identity. I am Kannadiga. If you are a Karnataka here, you feel that I am a Kannadiga. You, when you identify through your nation, you say I am an Indian, okay, or I am a European, whatever state you belong to. So this is an identity based upon a certain factor. That factor constitutes a nimitta. Nimitta means a conditioning. Through that you look at yourself, you have an opinion about yourself, an understanding of yourself, an identity about yourself. Similarly here, individuality is an identity about myself through certain factors like body, mind and sense organs. Body, mind and sense organs are the factors through which I see myself as an individual. But if I understand myself independent of this condition, independent of body, independent of mind, independent of sense organs, as I am, unrelated to a given situation, I don't look at myself through a given situation, through a given condition, through a given factor, but as I am, unrelated. That means anytime I am same. In any condition I am same. Irrespective of any condition, irrespective of any situation, any condition, any time, any place. Because I don't look at myself through these factors, unrelated to them, independently as I am. That is my real nature. So my real nature I missed. I happen to see myself through a given situation. This is the jivahood. This is samsara. Okay. This, a wrong perception, a wrong understanding of myself is samsara. Correcting my understanding about myself, seeing myself as I am, not as how I appear in a given situation, given condition. Not as I appear in a given condition or a given situation, but as I am. That is my real nature. So you have to shift your vision, shift your understanding of yourself from this conditional state to unconditional myself. This shifting the vision is called jnana. This requires a patience, an investigation, a self-observation. You have to observe yourself with the help of the teaching of the Shastra. This observation requires a mind, a certain mind. A mind requires an openness, unconditional, unprejudiced mind, which is detached, not emotional. Okay, such mind which is open, ready to discover the truth about oneself, because it is not, generally people have some identity and identification. This identification holds us. People think all of their real nature is only through identification, a language, an area, a religion, and caste and so on. Generally, we have an identification through these factors: your family, your income, your earning, your status, social status, economic status, political relation, all these things. All these things are only external factors. They are not essential part of me, my real me. They are not integral part of my real me. So my real me is totally different. Real me is always there. It doesn't depend upon any factor. So to look at myself, I have to drop my conditions. So to be able to separate these conditions of the body, mind, society, nation, world, languages, caste, religions, and so on. So to be able to disconnect all these external factors and just to see as I am requires a pure mind. Pure means what? A mind which is not too much interested, too much attached to these external factors. Because a person who is attached to money, he thinks himself as a rich man and he feels proud and happy in being a rich man. He feels secure that I am a rich man. If he is a poor man, he feels insecure, worried, tensed up. That means his identity about himself depends upon the external rich or poor, educated or illiterate, nation, religion, caste, and so many factors. These factors seem to give us an identity. That identity is a shaken because it is a dependent identity. It is not my natural identity. My natural identity is myself. My dependent identity is a dependent identity. It is not natural. A dependent identity becomes emotionally insecure, dependent, worried, uh, just like a baby. Baby wants to hold on because baby is afraid of some newcomers. Some newcomers come to home, baby will become afraid. So similarly, we just get afraid, and we have got, this is called as samsara. Samsara means all kinds of worries, tensions, and all kinds of things. But in an inner discovery of your natural self doesn't depend upon anything. Therefore, it is natural, it is by nature same. If I discover my natural self, I become free because natural is independent. Independence is freedom. An individuality, a self which is dependent on certain factors, uh, causes insecure, makes you vulnerable. Okay. But my real self is always free from all worries, all problems, all tensions. My real self is always free from everything. Okay. Today I am speaking only in English because those who can understand only Kannada are not there. Then this gave me an indication that I can speak in English. So I am speaking in English. Okay. My English is very simple. I think schoolboy can understand. Even I am not very great scholar of English. So you can understand, don't worry. So here he is pointing out, showing how your wrong identity is wrong. Wrong identity can be removed by only proper understanding, a proper angle of looking, that's all. A right way of looking at yourself. What is alien to me? See, what is alien to me, understand it is not part of me. What is alien to me? Anatma is alien. Alien is an English word. In Sanskrit we call it anatma. Atma is myself. Alien is not myself. Not myself. Anything other than myself is an alien. But we unconsciously or with our wrong consciousness, we have absorbed certain alien elements into the identity of Atman. Body is an alien element. We have included in the Atman. We have included in the identity of the Atman. Sense organs are alien to me. We have included them in our identity. Mind's emotions, various emotions, thoughts, and thinker, the agent of action, the individuality is not my real self. It's an alien to me, but still we have included it in our identity. So this is the thing, the alien thing entering into my identity and deciding my identity. Okay? Deciding my identity is creating problem to me. What is not me enters into my identity and decides that I am this. It insists that yes, I am this. And I get confused. And I miss my real self. I end up accepting my not self as myself, the alien thing as myself. When I take my alien thing as myself, my real self I miss. My real self I miss. That is a problem. Therefore, then if this is the condition I am in, then what is the right thing to do? Observation. Just to watchfully. As the Shastra points out, once you discover that body is alien, then you no more mix it with your Atma. No more add with your Atma. Once you discover, once you understand body is alien, body is in my consciousness, body is not part of my consciousness. Consciousness is Atma. Sense organs are known to consciousness. They are within consciousness, but they are not part of consciousness. Okay? Consciousness is independent. Consciousness is just consciousness, nothing but consciousness. There is no qualification to consciousness. There is no adjective to consciousness. Okay? So the sense organs add some adjective to consciousness. Then they adulterate the consciousness and makes the consciousness or make the Atma look as somebody else, which he is really not. Similarly, mind's emotions. We mix up emotions with the Atma, impose upon the Atma, take the emotions as part of me. Emotions are not me. Okay? Emotions appear in the consciousness, but not integral to consciousness. They are not integral. It's like a reflection in a mirror. Reflection in mirror appears, but it is not integral to mirror. It's not essential nature of mirror. Reflection appears in a mirror, reflection of your face. But still mirror remains untouched. The surface of the mirror remains untouched by whatever it reflects. Similarly, anatma, the alien elements like body, mind and sense organs, all these appear in the consciousness, but the consciousness remains untouched by them. Consciousness is always like space. Nothing can be attached to space. See, space is formless. Our other example is like a surface of the mirror. The mirror's surface is transparent, clean and transparent. Nothing sticks to it. You may see some colorful flowers, colorful people and things and all. They only get reflected, but no reflection touches the mirror. No reflection sticks to the mirror. Mirror remains ever pure, ever untouched. Similarly, consciousness is like space. Whatever wind moves in the space, objects come, solid objects appear in the space and go away. They are born and they go away. Space remains ever untouched, ever pure. Okay. Similarly, consciousness or the Atma is ever untouched, ever pure. Yastu Paramartha Darshi. Now, with this introduction, let us proceed with the shloka. 13th shloka. Sarva Karmani. All the karmas. All the karmas means all the movements, all the changes. Okay? Change and movement. Only two kinds of karma we see in any body, in any object. A thing changes. Whatever, the book which you bought, after 10 years won't remain the same. It gradually changes. Anything, it transforms, or it moves from one place to another place. There are only two kinds of karma. Karma includes these two. One is a movement from one place to another place. Another is a transformation, change in it. Change is one, movement is another. Both put together are called karma. So all the karmas, all the movements that you see in the body, don't belong to Atma. Atma is free from all movements, all transformations. Atma is changeless. Changeless means the changes that you see in the body remain with the body, they don't stick to the Atman. The changes that appear in the body belong to body alone, they don't belong to Atma. This is what we have to discover by observation. Shastra or Guru are pointing out. Oh my God, I don't know why it is not moving. Yes, it moved. We have to just observe, see the fact as it is. Some alien fact we mix it up with the fact. What is not fact we have mixed it up with the thing. Just to see what naturally exists, unconditionally exists. Whether you see it or not, it is there independently. What element in me, what aspect in me remains eternal and ever existing, self-existing, and what aspect is not self-existing, yet I mix it up, yet I add up, I impose it upon the Atman. Body is one factor. Okay, Sarva Karmani. Now, this same Sarva Karmani, as I put it in two ways. One is the transformation, another is the movement. But here Shankaracharya, the same karma he explains differently. He explains more a ritualistic karma, more a Mimamsaka's explanation he gives. All kinds of karmas. Sarva Karmani Parityajya, having abandoned, having given up all the karmas. What are the karma? Nitya, Naimittika, Kamya, Pratisiddhancha. Okay. Nitya, Naimittika, Kamya, Pratisiddha. Just a minute, I make a correction. Nitya karma is daily actions. Naimittika are occasional. Kamya, what you specifically desire, a desired actions. The actions done with a particular desire, a specific desire. That means we have two types of actions first. What is Vihita, another is Nishiddha. Vihita means what is enjoined action, another is prohibited action. Do's and don'ts. Government laws, the social conventions, or the religious books, all these things make do's and don'ts. You're supposed to do certain things, you're not supposed to do. Society expects. Government's law make rules. You're supposed to do this and you're not supposed to do the other. Doing and not doing. Doing one thing and avoiding another. Doing is enjoined action. Avoiding is what you are not supposed to do, what you are advised not to do. That is prohibition. Injunction and prohibition. Okay. So enjoined karma. Enjoined karma, when the government law or society or your religious book enjoins, you take up certain activity and do it. And what is nishiddham? Anything negative action. What you call it, anything done with ego, hatred, and excess of selfishness, all these activities, all these actions are prohibited because they are harmful actions. They are religiously unmeritorious actions. They don't add a religious merit to me. They are sinful actions, papa karmas. Therefore, what I am not supposed to do, it tells me. What I am supposed to do also, it tells me. What I am supposed to do, again of three. What I am supposed to avoid are pratisiddha karma, prohibited actions. Then what I am supposed to do are enjoined actions. Enjoined actions are of three types. One is daily, obligatory. Daily means what? Obligatory actions. What you are supposed to do. Naimittika means it is occasionally you are obligated to do. Occasional but not every day. some activities. Bah. This is exactly their time of disturbance. In school and colleges, we have got our class time. This is their disturbance time. Abba. They shout and scream and do all sorts of things. Okay, little less. So Nitya is what you are obliged to do, what you can't escape, what you can't excuse yourself. You must do it. So it is a Nitya. Nitya means always you are supposed to do certain good actions, certain good acts, good deeds. What you are supposed to do every day. What you are supposed to do, what you are enjoying to do occasionally. And what you have got optional, a option is given. If you want a particular result, you may do. These are all optional karmas. Motivated out of your own personal interest. If you are interested in, you may do it. If you are not interested, you need not do. Okay, so all our actions are of these three types. Positive actions, not negative. Negative means to be avoided. What you are supposed to do, what you are supposed to avoid, those are two. Okay, we leave them. Then what you are supposed to do out of them, what you are supposed to do are of three types: Nitya, Naimittika, Kamya. This is how our Indian Shastras classify the karmas. So, since it is familiar to Indians, as our Shastras teach that these are the three kinds of duties, these are the three kinds of duties or responsibilities or what you are supposed to do. Now here Shankaracharya says all the karmas, all the means good and bad. Out of the good, the daily good, occasional or optional. Daily, occasional, optional. You may do, you may not do, depending upon your interest. If you are interested, you may do it. If you are interested in a specific result, you may do. That is called Kamya Karma. In Sanskrit, Nitya, Naimittika, Kamya. Daily means as a routine you are supposed to do. Occasions, Naimittika is only on certain occasions alone you do them. Once the occasion passes, you don't have to do them. And then third one is an optional. Only it depends upon your interest. If you are interested, you may do, otherwise you need not do. So these these are the three karmas. And another one is a prohibited karma. Prohibited. All these karmas put together. So Shankaracharya says all karmas. What is that all karmas? How do you understand the all? To be able to give you an idea of all, he is narrating these four types of karmas. But in short, we say anything that happens through you, anything that you do, all karmas, sarva karmani manasa sanyasya, all these karmas you have to give up. Because karma means whatever the type of karma, good and bad, any karma puts you in cause and effect relationship. That means if you undertake a karma, you are already part of cause and effect series. Because you do something and naturally the result will inevitably come to you. Because a karma, an activity is a part of nature. When you do something, the result will automatically come, whether you like or not. Because you are stuck to it. Once you do karma, result becomes inevitable. Maybe good and bad, and you may like, may not like, but that's what happens. So here he is helping you, he is teaching you to transcend the karma. Atma transcends all karmas. Gives up. That means all karmas, sarvani karmani, all these karmas, having given up all these karmas, how do you give up? Manasa sanyasya. Sanyasya is giving up, having given up. What? All the karmas. Which karma? Not this or that. All kinds of karma you are supposed to give up. Okay? How? How do you give up? Manasa sanyasya. You can give up, this is the only way. Physically avoiding, you can't avoid all karmas. Physically you can't avoid. Therefore, viveka buddhya. by your understanding of Atma. With the self-knowledge alone, you can give up. Knowledge, what does the knowledge do? Knowledge just points out the fact. The teaching only points out the fact. Once you discover, you understand. Okay? This knowledge is not a concept. It is only an understanding. So, Viveka Buddhya, this understanding requires a discriminating. What is Anatma? What is alien point? Discover as an alien, then the Atma remains eternal and self-existing. So, Manasa Viveka Buddhya, how we give up all the karmas? We give up all the karmas in a particular way. How is that? Karmadau akarma sandarshanena santyajya. Manaha means viveka, discriminative understanding. Manasa, by the mind. Manaha is mind. Manas or manaha is mind. Okay. Manasa sanyasya, by viveka buddhya, by a discriminative understanding. When you understand this is an alien to Atma, that's what is discriminating. By discriminating, you give up. Giving up means only by discrimination is giving up. Understanding the alien as an alien is giving up. It's not me. Body is not me, because it is known to me as consciousness. It is not integral to consciousness. It is not a it is not a nature of consciousness. It is not a part of Atma. It is not the nature of Atma. Okay. So this karmadau akarma sandarshanena. In earlier shloka, in the 4th chapter, I think in the 4th chapter, 4th chapter, 18th shloka. 4th chapter, 18th shloka. Karmadau akarma darshanena. That means seeing no action in action and action as a no action, which we discussed elaborately in number of sessions. Okay, we'll proceed with it. That means you understand, in spite of the bodily action, Atma is untouched. Action means two ways. One is a transformation, another is a change. Body keeps transforming. Body doesn't remain the same. The moment, the day when you born, you are of one size, and later your body keeps on changing. So this change is one action. Moving from one place to another is another action. These two kinds of action belong to the body. They happen at the level of the body and do not happen upon the Atman. They don't occur to the Atman. Therefore, all the movements and changes pertain to the body, not to the Atma. This is a discovery. This is not a concept to be accepted or to be believed. It is something you have to discover within yourself, and it is only pointing out. Okay. Manasa sanyasya. By viveka buddhi, by discriminative understand, you can give up. See, giving up here, sannyasa, santyajya. Sanyasya means santyajya. How do you give up karmas? If you are a body, if you identify with the body, as long as you are the body, karmas keep happening. You can't stop anything, because they happen. But if you understand you are not the body, then that Atma, that witnessing consciousness which is not the body, remains changeless, remains movementless. It is free from movement, free from change. So all the movements and transformations belong to the body. So let us not attribute bodily dharma, bodily nature to the Atman. Though they live together closely, still body is the body. Atma is Atma. So bodily nature doesn't get transferred to Atma, because it was wrong. It was a misunderstanding on my part. I thought that all the bodily qualities belong to Atma only. But Atma is independent of these qualities. ಸೊ ಸರ್ವಾಣಿ ಕರ್ಮಾಣಿ ಮನಸಾ ಸನ್ಯಸ್ಯ ಅಂದರೆ ಕರ್ಮಾದವು ಅಕರ್ಮ ಸಂದರ್ಶನೇನ ಸಂತ್ಯಜ್ಯ. Having given up all karmas by understanding that they are not me, they are only imposed on me, originally they don't belong to me. Aste tishtati sukham, by giving up he lives happily. By giving up the karma, all kinds of karma, one becomes happy. By giving up karma, when we say, people are likely to misunderstand. How? When we say it is free from karma, how do we understand? Karma no doubt is there, but it belongs to the body. If I identify with the body, take myself as an individual, all bodily functions automatically belong to me without much thought. Because once I identify with the body, bodily qualities and bodily karma, both guna and karma, bodily qualities and also bodily kriyas, all activity, all this you dharma, all this you are supposed to do. But Atma is free from all these things. So aste tishtati sukham, by giving up all karma, by giving up means by understanding that Atma is untouched by body and bodily functions, bodily qualities. Atma is untouched by, just like an actor is untouched by the role, the character's personality. The character or the role in a drama has certain functions to do that, but the witness of it remains untouched, just remains untouched. Okay. So aste sukham, a person who gives up his identity with the body and remains just consciousness alone, what happens to him? He enjoys a deeper level of happiness. So tyakta vang manah kaya chesto nirayasah prasanna chittah atmano anyatra. A person who has given up, tyakta vang manah kaya chesta, he gave, a person who gives up, a person who is a sannyasi, who gives up all the activities. When we say which activity you give up and which not, he says tyakta vang manah kaya chestaha nirayasah. When you de-identify with the body, the stress and strain, the burden of the body, the burden which I felt when I identify with the body goes away along with the de-identification with the body. I shouldn't assert my individuality. If you assert, more you remain an individual. Take individual lightly. Individual desires, individual interests, individual sufferings, take all of them lightly. Then you understand you are free from all this. So nirayasah prasanna chittah samyak vangmanah kaya tyakta vangmana, andre a person who gives up all his activity of the body, mind and sense organs, what happens? Nirayasah, he becomes totally effortless, no strain at all, totally relaxed and happy, no strain whatsoever. Prasanna chittah, very pleased and happy mind. Atmano anyatra. That means he is not interested in anything else. You need body because through the body you want to achieve certain experiences. you want to gain certain experience, you want to gain certain material and something. If you want to achieve something through the body, that means your identification with the body is intact. But an enlightened jnani who gives up his bodily identification, then what happens? Prasanna Cheta, he becomes effortless, he becomes very pleasant in his mind, and Atmano Anyatra Nivritta Sarva Bahya Prayojanena. Now he has no interest. Bahya Prayojanaha, interest. He has no interest for anything other than the Atman. Nivritta Bahya Prayojanaha, who has no interest in external things. We identify with the body only because we have certain things to achieve through the body, certain acts, certain experiences. So if I become disinterested in the external acts and its result, my bodily identification also melts away. Bodily identification sustains only because I need to achieve certain things through the body. That is the thing. Therefore, prasanna chetaha, atmano anyatra. But this person, jnani, is, he knows all his interest lies in the Atman alone, the natural state of Atma. Atma means the natural state of Atma. All happiness, all pleasure, all fulfillment, all joy rests in that nature of Atma. Okay. Atmano anyatra nivritta sarva bahya prayojanaha. He lost all interest in anything other than the Atman. How beautiful it is. It's not easy to give up, but if you can give up, you are a very lucky person, blessed person. Sarva bahya prayojanaha nivrittaha. All other external interests are dropped. All the external interests are dropped. To such a person, iti sukham aste. Such a person who gives up all the stress, all the strain, born in the wake of identification with the body. In the wake of identification with the body, whatever the stress and strain body undergoes, all that belongs to me. See, it's a very strange thing. What Vedanta says is, when you identify with one thing, one Swamiji would say, I think one Chinmayananda would say, this is a beautiful example. When a person, he had a house, he wanted to sell it. And then there was he shifted to another house, he built in another house, and he wanted to sell the old house. So as he announced it, people came, number of people came and went away, again came and went back. But others do not know what happened to that house. Has he sold or not? But it was meant for sale. And he was living in another house. Suddenly some news came that his old house caught on fire. It caught fire. Then people were worried, hey, they're coming and telling him news, hey, very bad news for you. That old house caught on fire. And this person doesn't bother. He remains relaxed, undisturbed. And then he tells them that, no, I have already sold it. Oh, you already sold it? Others do not know. It was meant for sale, but whether he sold it or not, people did not know. And now you know what he says? When people were worried, hey, your old house is on fire. And he says, I don't lose anything because I sold it. I sold it to somebody. Registration is done. The payment also I got back. See, this is the check I got. Now let it be burned. It's not my house. Because once he gets his money and registration is over, the passbook comes to you along with money. Now that old house is no more your house. or anything happens to it, if some damage or something occurs, is least bothered about it, is not at all bothered about. Similarly, when I identify with the body brings, when I have an identification with it, certain certain stress and strain because of karma and experiences. I'm supposed to do. I take up burden upon myself. I have to execute a lot of activities. Then I get certain experiences. Both this put together give him tension. Therefore, it is due to my tension that I was unhappy. I was not happy, or I was a samsari. When you give up all this stress and strain born of your responsibility, huh? It is a responsibility that binds people. Okay. Therefore, a person who gives up his body, the shloka says a person who gives up all his karma. But how can you give up all your karma? Giving up karma means that one or two karma, all karmas. All karma means whatever changes, whatever movements take place, whatever changes and movements take place on the body. When you de-identify with the body, all those changes, effects don't affect you. You remain totally untouched by them. That is the thing. So, sarva karmani manasa sadnyasya aste sukham vashi. Vashi is a person who has self-control. A person who has self-control lives happily. Sukham aste. He lives happily. Tyaktavang manakaya chesto nirayasaha prasannachittaha atmano anyatra nivritta sarvabahya prayojanaha iti sukham aste uchyate. When he doesn't expect anything from the external world, when he doesn't expect any consequences to be like this alone, he doesn't insist, then he is a naturally relaxed person. Because there is no pressure. No karma and experiences bring pressure along with them. Now he has no karma and no karma phala. He transcended both. Then such a person, sukham aste, lives happily. Therefore, happiness is natural to you, but denied to you through your body, on account of the body. It is the body covers it up, the Atma. Then you think that, oh, I lost my Atma. Atma is a natural state, a happy state, infinite state. You think that, oh, I lost my infinity, I have lost my money, I have lost all those things. That means you are not looking at the Atma as Atma. So, then when he gives up the identification with the body and others, so the body doesn't affect him, the bodily stress and strain do not touch him, he becomes very spontaneous and natural. That natural state without any pressure is called happiness. This is what Shankaracharya says. A natural state of the Atma is happiness. Then why were I unhappy? Because of your artificially imposing nature of the body. Bodily nature you have imposed upon the Atma, then as a result of imposition, you take yourself to be an Atma. Okay. Vashi indriyarti, jitendriya, kva kathamaste, who lives and where? He says, Navadvare pure dehi. A pura, this I tell you briefly, but later I'll tell in the next class. Body is compared like a city or a fort. Instead of calling a city, let us say the fort, F-O-R-T. In ancient days, kings used to build forts and palaces. Okay. Now he says, where does he live? He lives within the body. This living within the body is a little complicated one. I think I have to explain it. If I start explaining, time is not enough. 12:05 has come. So tadartha tadvaraihi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan tadartha prayojanaischa indriyasya no buddhi vishayairane kala vijnanasya utpadakaihi pauraireva adhishtanam. I think better we'll discuss in the next class alone. Okay. Person having given up all his karmas sits in the body. How this sitting in the body to be understood? He sits in the body. He gives up all the karmas pertaining to the body, yet he sits in the body. What does it mean? If he is sitting in the body, naturally he cannot remain without identifying with the body. But you say he sits in the body and becomes free from all karmas, all responsibilities, all individuality. How? That we'll discuss in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat